Every idea starts with a problem. Warby Parker's was simple. Glasses are too expensive. So they set out to change that. By designing glasses in-house and selling directly to customers, they're able to offer prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Warby Parker glasses are made from premium materials like impact-resistant polycarbonate and custom acetate. And they start at just $95, including prescription lenses. Get glasses made from the good stuff. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
As the main character of your life, you know how important it is to make the right choices for you and how sweet it is to feel good about your decisions. With the State Farm Personal Price Plan, you have options to help create an affordable price for you so you can continue living your best life. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can choose to bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Hey guys, it's Hannah from Giggly Squad. You know I love beauty, and that's why I go to Sephora. It's not just shopping, it's like a glam experience. The beauty advisors actually get beauty, unlike those big box stores, and they give me all the advice I need. And I love going with the products you can only find at Sephora, like my new favorite Kayali fragrance, my perfect shade of House Labs foundation, and finally restocked my Laneige lip mask. All with the help of real experts. Oh, and if you haven't tried Days shampoo, go try it. It's a game changer. Sephora isn't just a store, it's the beauty destination. Go. You'll thank me later.
A new era of power has arrived with the Alienware Area 51 gaming laptops, intentionally engineered to push more power to the CPU and GPU for maximum performance. This otherworldly power, paired with the game-changing AI capabilities of NVIDIA GeForce RTX 50 series GPUs with DLSS4, amplifies performance and image precision for ultra-smooth, stunning gameplay. And with the new cryo chamber design, airflow is focused exactly where it's needed most. Fused with Alienware's enhanced thermal solutions, it creates a higher power output without raising noise levels, allowing you to play with confidence even during the most demanding marathon gaming sessions. So no matter what you are playing, Alienware ensures every game runs precisely as its developers intended. A new era of power is here. All you have to do is take it. Discover Area 51 today at alienware.com.
This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, July 11th, 7/11/2025. We tell you what you need to know, follow up on the context of those stories, and help each other understand.
Today, a study shows AI makes developers slower, not faster at coding, and a major ISP gets rid of data caps.
I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Huyen Dow.
Let's start with what you need to know with that big story. I can't wait. All right, I'm going to talk a lot just so we understand the parameters of this story, and then we're going to hand it over to you, Huyen, because you actually code and I do not. So this is going to be good. But bear with me because there's a lot of table setting here. First of all, we have this study from Meter. It's pronounced Meter, but it's spelled METR, and it stands for Model Evaluation and Threat Research. It is a nonprofit created to create scientific methods for evaluating frontier models, mostly to assess catastrophic risks, what's called alignment, but also to make good decisions about development. It's founded in 2022 by Beth Barnes, former OpenAI alignment person who through a circuitous route ended up founding this. Meter has cooperated with Anthropic and OpenAI and lots of folks and has put out this paper on its own website. So this is not peer-reviewed in a journal, but it's a randomized controlled trial that aimed to see what effect using certain tools had on productivity for experienced developers working on mature projects. That's important. These are projects that have been around for more than 10 years. The projects generally have around 1 million lines of existing code or more. And it's a small group. The study enlisted 16 developers from these major open source projects. Now, we've got 246 total tasks that were evaluated from those 16 developers. But if you really want to expand the conclusions, you need to have a bigger group. They know that. This is just one of those, we started small to see if there was an effect. Each developer was asked to predict how long it would take to complete each task the normal way and how long it would take if they used a generative model. Because one of the things they were testing for was how long do they think it'll take them And then how long does it take them? How much time does it really save them versus how much time they think it will save them? Tasks were then randomly assigned. So you didn't know when you made your predictions whether you'd be using the models or not. The developers who were randomly assigned, yes, you should use AI models, were allowed to use models primarily Cursor Pro with Claude 3.5 or 3.7 Sonnet, which at the time they did this study, February through June 2025, those were the current models. Then they did their tasks. They recorded their screen. So there was, an independent evaluation of their time. And then if they were using a model, they were asked to estimate how much time they thought they had saved. Meter found that the difference between the predicted time and the actual time was 19% longer for those who use generative models. In other words, they thought they were going to save time, and it took them 19% longer than they thought. In the exit interview on those who used the models, they were asked how they used them. This is important too. 70 of the tasks used them as normal. 119 of the tasks said, I experimented. I tried some stuff that maybe I wouldn't normally do. And 57 said, I used it as much as possible. We're doing a test of AI, so I tried it out. And so you might think like, maybe that accounts for the extra time. But those who used it as normal were the least slowed down, but still were slower than you would expect. 93% of the participants that had used ChatGPT, so it's not like that they were unfamiliar with using these models. 44% had used Cursor, so maybe less familiar with Cursor. All of them received training in Cursor before the study started, so they weren't coming in cold. None of them showed significant changes in speed as they became more familiar with it. So the scientists think the slowdown probably wasn't caused with unfamiliarity, or we would have seen an effect. Those who used Cursor did have to switch to a new development environment, so that could have affected speed. Those who used the models added 47% more lines of code. Often they would add more tests or more comments than those who weren't using models. However, the increased time was also greater on tasks that didn't have those lines of code. So when you drill in and look at the tasks, even when they weren't adding a bunch of lines, they still were going slower. Those who used the models also spent time reviewing the code and reworking it to meet standards. It's possible that those using the generative models spent more time, but less effort. The amount of time spent waiting for models to generate output was not measured. Those who used the models spent less time actively coding. We do know that, but there was added time prompting, waiting on responses, and reviewing the code. And it's worth noting some observations from the author of the Second Thoughts Substack. These projects are less likely to have material that would have been included in training because of the amount of undocumented knowledge carried in the heads of long-term developers like these. The developers are also used to the strict guidelines of their projects, and these models are not. And then there's just the years of experience that make you faster at stuff. So lots to digest there, I know. But Huyen, I know you have thoughts.
Okay, so just to put my cards on the table, I have used AI for programming tasks, and I am just very explicitly very bearish on it. I tend to be a little pessimistic. I have tried not to be a Luddite about this, but I am deeply concerned about a lot of the impacts of AI on our industry. And so on average, I'm going to be a little more pessimistic, and you can maybe just think that I might have some confirmation bias about the study, which is totally fair. And just to give it more flavor, it's interesting because this is a very hard thing to measure just because our jobs are not just writing code. And so this is going to be measuring or trying to study a particular way of doing a certain part of our job. I will say though, okay, so the thing is, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by this. And this is the thing that kind of concerns me. And I think what is kind of really cool about, generative AI with programming is that, for tasks that you have no experience in, that are maybe outside of your usual work, outside of your expertise, it's really great. And I think, if vibe coding, and I make fun of it a lot, but I do think it opens up doors for people. I use vibe coding too, with things I'm not familiar with. So I don't want to dump on it too much, but it is a lot different from making something just work to, as these projects are, working on legacy products that have to be used in production for real people over a long period of time, where you have to maintain it, you have to maintain a certain level of service and stability. And so, yes, this is where I get concerned. And it's, and like, I think one of the biggest reasons that a lot of the AI is getting promoted to us is increases in productivity. So anecdotally, I will say that I get, like, according to the study, a lot of people were even people that were very positive on it, experienced slowdowns. And why are developers who are very positive on these tools like them? One of the things that I thought was really interesting, which kind of resonated with me, was a style of using AI. And this is not my style, but this is the way a lot of people do it, is that, again, they'll write a prompt, have it generate code, look at it, kind of review it as the study said, and then prompt again. And so for a lot of developers, especially in this time of remote work, like the idea of having a coding buddy to basically iterate or throw ideas at. And it seemed like some people were excited in the study to do that as well. Just use as much as possible, see what happens, experiment. That's all great, for sure. And I mean, that's just going to inherently slow things down, right? Just because you're iterating more. So it's hard to like measure not necessarily productivity, but the impacts of that. So I admit that. But I do think that in terms of raw productivity, it does, especially when you have experience in this, it does lead to situations where, yeah, you're a little bit slower because I could have just done this. And also, we're not at a point where I think AI models are able to catch everything that we write code for. And there's so many times where you write code for something that's just that's so specific to your project, or it just is something that, I don't know, it's just hard to see. And yeah, you still have to review the code. And that's like another thing is like, when you're vibe coding, you don't have like millions of customers depending on you necessarily, or thousands of people using your library and thousands of projects. And it's on you to make it as airtight as possible, as resilient as possible. And so when, we write code for these larger projects, you have to review it, you have to test it. And the fact that, I generate something and I have to review it anyway does slow me down. And it's so interesting because, I don't know, there's just like a lot of factors to this. I just don't think this makes a lot of sense to me. And it also depends on how you use it. I generally don't use it much for my day-to-day programming. I am a little bit faster, but there's also nuance to this because there's certain kinds of AI, like this thing of like, okay, assistant, do this thing for me, generate some code that does thing A and B, that accomplishes C. And then you wait for it. You get the code back, you review it, you maybe update it so that it kind of fits what you need to do, or, you maybe fix some mistakes or something, and then you kind of repeat this process. I use it differently. I tend to use more like IDE language-specific models. Like, for example, I'm a Kotlin developer. I use Junie a little bit. I use StudioBot in Android Studio because I'm an Android developer. And that's a little bit different. I mean, it's similar, but it's not different. Like, for example, again, like you mentioned, Tom, that it's used a lot on tests and comments. I generally tend to use it on things that just take me time to type out because I'm a human being and not a computer. And that's where I find the most productivity. Like, I was creating a schedule component and I was like trying to create some test data for it. And so rather than me typing out a bunch of JSON that's like, okay, well, I have a class at 9 p.m. and then another class at 9:30 p.m. and I want to change the names. I think I had Claude do it. And I'm able to generate variations in that data and say, hey, can you make like the data set have overlapping classes, but like no classes like in this room? And so that actually is like this kind of like very rote brute force. Like, I just need you to generate a bunch of things and understand that I need certain situations. That's where I use it. And, or if it's like an AI that's very specific to the language, it kind of just knows. It's able to understand what I'm writing and just come up with like boilerplate, like, oh, here's like the outline of a test and you can fill it in. So it's very nuanced, but I don't know. It's interesting just because I think that we still don't really know how this impacts our job. And I literally was in a meeting yesterday where we were talking about using AI for a work thing. And the PM, the product manager, made a specific point. It's like, hey, programmers, and again, like 30% of statistics are all made up, but like we don't spend all of our time typing and coding. The statistic that my manager gave out was like 16%. Like, especially like senior developers like myself, we spend very little time coding. I actually did not program this week, but I worked my ass off this week.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's so interesting because I think a lot of the productivity that we get with AI is real, but also there's a perception with it, which is what this, like, yes, maybe there's an argument for less effort. Maybe there's an argument for certain use cases that are just very specific and very like niche. So it's really hard to say, but I'm not surprised. And I think that we're still trying to figure out what AI actually is doing and what it actually knows and what it doesn't know. My husband gave me an anecdote of someone that he works with who is very good, very experienced, who actually thought that AI was making him better and more productive because it caught something once that he didn't catch. And he's a very senior developer. And so I think because AI can be so good at certain things, or just like, catch certain things that we can't catch because it's able to kind of survey and consume all this different code. It is making us think, wow, it really is. Is it as good as I am at my job? And I think we don't really know. As a counterpoint to that, I found out something that I missed just by reading someone post something on LinkedIn. So I think it's really weird because it's really hard to also attribute.
You're not promoting LinkedIn as the savior of
coding,
right?
Exactly. I mean, and as a counterpoint to that, within the last 6 months, I've had a bot applaud someone for doing something blatantly wrong at work. And it's hard because even at, on any particular team, people have different experience levels. They have just different areas of expertise. So someone might miss something. And I can't help but also think we write bugs. So a lot of time, and sorry, this is just a lot of different feelings. I'm not surprised. I think the productivity angle, again, being a very bearish person, is overblown, and that we really have to really evaluate what these tools are used for, how we're using them. Because I don't think it's going to be, especially again on older, more nuanced and very strict projects, it's not going to be as simple as hit the button, generate the code, fire, get rid of the developers. You don't need them. I'm just, this makes sense to me. It jives with my actual lived experience. So.
I think this study is going to get misused and well used. And I don't know in equal measures, but a lot of people are going to point to it and say, see, AI makes you less productive. And that's not what it's saying. I think it's really well laid out and well done, and says it is going to make you think you're better than you are, which is something that these tools have been proven to do in lots of ways. So be aware of that. It also is going to speed up your active coding. Like that's in the data. The only things that people who were using the tools spent more time at than people who were not using the tools were idle time, waiting on AI, prompting AI, or reviewing AI output. So what made them slower were things related to the tools. The tools did make them faster at coding, which is why they feel like they were faster at coding, because they actually were, right? But it just added all this other time that didn't kind of jive with their estimation of themselves.
Yeah, and again, it's so nuanced, because I think, like anything else, any job, there are just so many nuances and so many different ways that you work, that we need to figure out the specific areas, the specific times where AI is most valuable. Yeah. And then understand this is where it could really slow us down and hurt us, And
like you said at the beginning, with things you're unfamiliar with, I think it is widely agreed, like, oh yeah, that will make you faster at those things. And I can hear all my friends who work at AI companies going, now it's getting better all the time, right? And Steve Newman at his Substack admitted that. He's like, everyone says these things are getting better all the time, and they are getting better all the time. So maybe a year down the road, the study will look different, but we don't know. We're just talking about where it is at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely say that I've saved hours of time using AI. But I've also spent hours of time having to explain to people why the AI was very wrong, and please don't do this, or please don't turn your brain off. Yeah. And that's kind of thing that I tend to get in a soapbox about, is that, again, the situation where you're using AI as like a rubber duck, a whiteboarding buddy, that's great. I don't want to take that away. And I think that it does, again, as you said, the biggest thing is, like, if you don't know how to do something, it can take hours down to minutes or seconds. And that's super valuable. But the kind of fine details, the understanding, like the whole business context and social context that your work lives in, is a lot different. And I don't know. There's just a lot that we need to figure out.
Yeah.
And it's not cut and dry.
And it may get better at some of those things. It may get better at some of those things very quickly. It may take longer. I definitely feel like on the longer timeline, it'll probably get better and better and better, at a lot of this stuff of being able to be like, oh, we'll just be able to train it quickly on your particular project's guidelines, and it will be able to do them. All that kind of stuff is definitely possible. Yeah. But for now, it's a good, I think this study should be taken as a good perspective setting of these tools aren't bad, but like Huyen said, they're good at some things, they're not good at others. It's nuanced, and it's good to be aware of that.
Yeah. I actually been using a story that we talked about. Sorry, I'll start shutting up about this a while ago, where we talked about we talked about like journalism, right? I think was it Andy Beach who talked to folks about journalism and where AI might live in journalism, and where it might be more of an editorial role that human beings take, whereas the AI might be generating the. And I'm sorry, as a not a journalist, I forgot like what the kind of like
just the copy and
the grunt work, right?
Right.
And so that's what I think. Obviously in programming, it would be very similar. Whereas what I do as a senior engineer, again, I barely coded this week, but I worked my butt off, like talking to other teams, learning how this works, going through like specs for this project that I'm on and talking about risks and all kinds of things like that. And so that is more, so that again, it's like a similar role, right? Where we're kind of synthesizing information, drawing on experience that we have and saying, okay, like in this case, maybe this is the right tool to use. Well, what about this and this problem that I've learned from my mistakes? Like that kind of stuff, right? It's more of a kind of stewarding, like kind of architectural perspective. And that's great. And that's fine. The one part that I'm really worried about is for engineers coming up today. And I've literally had younger engineers, like new grads, tell me that they're extremely worried. And not just from the like socioeconomic of like, will we have a job? But also for me, I'm just like, I got that, where I got that experience and the ability to do this is from literally coding and making mistakes and having to think for myself. My only concern is that I don't have a problem with a staff senior engineer sitting down and like, whiteboarding through something and like doing crazy stuff with Cursor or ChatGPT, because I trust them to like look over things and be like, okay, let me like refine this. But I don't know where the experience, the human experience that builds that senior engineer and that staff engineer is going to come from when we have a lot of pressure in the industry to just sit down, just use it. If you don't know what's wrong or if you don't know where the gotchas are in some code that ChatGPT pushed at you and you just don't have that experience, I don't know how you're going to gain it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because it's not going to be as easily gained because someone's going to have to give you the time. I don't know. That's the part I worry about.
And the tools aren't good enough yet for you to be comfortable treating them the way you treat C++ versus assembly, right?
Yeah,
because there
absolutely.
were programmers in the 80s making the same arguments of like these interpreted languages, like you really need to understand COBOL and you need to understand assembly to know how to code. Right. Object-oriented programming is great and all. But eventually object-oriented programming got so good that yes, it's nice to have an understanding of that, but you don't need to use it. And that is possible here too. Like maybe this gets good enough where as long as you have an understanding, it's enough, but we're not there at the moment. So it's uncertain. Yeah. Like, well, are we going to get there or are we going to stay in this mushy middle that we're at?
Yeah. And I mean, like, and it's hard because AI has kind of accelerated that process, that process. I mean, and I totally agree with you. I've used that same analogy of like punch cards versus like assembly versus like higher level languages, which is actually like a good thing. But it's also like the speed of evolution I'm concerned about because, we've had decades, and maybe that's wrong of me to be like an old programmer and be like, well, I earned this, over decades, and maybe that's like myopic of me. But at the same time, we're still human beings and we live in human like structures and we live in a society, and I don't know if our industry and the people that live in it can, I guess, keep up with this interesting speed at which the industry is changing. And I wonder if it's going to be a boomerang, or I wonder if it's just we're going to be in a spot where we're going to have to, I don't like saying this, sacrifice some people's like current, like, I don't know, we're going to be messing things up.
Yeah. Is it going to be an easy transition or a rough transition?
Or a hard
transition? It might be a rough transition. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's easy to look back at the 80s and say like all those people who they said how fast things were changing. It wasn't that fast and it was fine. Well, we could say that because we know how it turned out.
2020,
Much more disconcerting to be sitting on the edge of the precipice going like, I think we'll survive the fall. We usually do,
I literally was apologizing. Yeah, I was literally apologizing to a new grad 3 weeks ago saying, I'm sorry. I know that we're putting, like, all of us as an industry are putting you in a weird situation, and I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I don't know. I just feel like some of us will just hopefully be there as a safety net. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Hopefully it ends up okay. On that positive-ish note.
Yeah. Huyen, thank you very much for giving us so much of your perspective on this. Like, it is incredibly valuable. I can't thank you enough.
I appreciate it. When I saw this on the rundown, I was like, yes, I have thoughts about this. But hopefully they're helpful. I
think so. I think they really are.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll just move on now and say DTNS, including long rambles like this, were made possible by you, the listener. Thank you so much to High Tech Okie, Chris Zaragoza, and Jim Hart.
Yeah, without folks like that, we don't have the ability to sit down and have these conversations. So thank you very much.
Picture this. You're in the garage, hands covered in grease, just finished up tuning your engine with a part you found on eBay, and you realize, you know what? I could also use new brakes. So where do you go next? Back to eBay. You can find anything there. It's unreal. Wipers, headlights, even cold air intakes. It's all there. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. You order a part, and if it doesn't fit, send it back. Simple as that. Look, DIY fixes can be major. Doesn't matter if it's just maintenance or a major mod. You got it, especially when things are guaranteed to fit. So when you dive into your next car project, start with eBay. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
It's happening right now. The Knix Annual Warehouse Sale, July 10th through 14th at knix.com. We're clearing out the warehouse, and the savings are big. Save up to 50% on select styles from the #1 leak-proof brand in North America. This is your chance to stock up on Knix's game-changing leak-proof underwear. The soft, stylish, machine-washable underwear that handles periods, sweat, and light leaks with total confidence. Millions have made the switch to Knix, and with sizes from extra small to 4XL and tons of colors and styles, there's something for everyone. But it's not just underwear. Find big savings on revolutionary bras, swimwear, and more. From long days to late nights, everything is designed to move with you and keep you comfortable, supported, and leak-free. Raid the warehouse and try something new, or stock up on your Knix favorites. This sale only happens once a year and ends Monday, July 14th. The best deals go fast, so hurry to Knix.com. That's knix.com. Save up to 50% now through July 14th. knix.com.
Hey guys, it's Hannah from Giggly Squad. You know I love beauty, and that's why I go to Sephora. It's not just shopping, it's like a glam experience. The beauty advisors actually get beauty, unlike those big box stores, and they give me all the advice I need. And I love going with the products you can only find at Sephora, like my new favorite Kayali fragrance, my perfect shade of House Labs foundation, and finally restocked my Laneige lip mask. All with the help of real experts. Oh, and if you haven't tried Days shampoo, go try it. It's a game changer. Sephora isn't just a store, it's the beauty destination. Go. You'll thank me later.
This is Car Tracks with Turtle Wax. Your car says a lot about you. So if we asked your car what it would say about you, what would it say?
Listen, you dropped one of those tiny cheeseburgers under the seat like last week, and now we're both dry heaving at the stench. Do us a favor, grab some turtle wax, and let's get to work.
This has been Car Tracks with Turtle Wax. You are how you car.
Out here, it's not only the amazing views, but the way time stretches out a little longer. How laughter bellows louder among friends, and how the breeze hits just right at the summit. With All Trails, you can discover and experience the best of nature, with over 450,000 trails worldwide and navigation right at your fingertips. Find your outside with All Trails. Download the free app today and find your next outdoor adventure.
There's more we need to know today. Let's get to the briefs.
All right, well, Belkin announced Thursday that it will end support for its Wemo smart home products and the app used to control them on January 31st, 2026. Any products still under warranty at that date may be eligible for a partial refund. Products that can be configured to use with Apple HomeKit will continue to function. Affected devices were sold between August 2015 and November 2023.
Now, listen, I'm the kind of person who's always like, wait, these stories aren't as bad as it sounds. Let me explain. This is older stuff. Not that many people have them. This is not that story. This story sucks. No, this is Belkin. You know, when you buy Belkin, you're like, well, they aren't going to go out of business. And it's stuff that's only a couple of years old. I have bulbs. I have smart bulbs that I've been using for 15 years, you know, like this is not great. I do not like this story.
No, I'm pretty sure I have a Belkin smart plug somewhere in this room right now. So yes, it sucks. Agreed.
Yeah, and I understand the decision, which is Belkin's just getting out of this business, and they're like, "We'll support your warrant. You know, we'll try to give you a refund if you're within your warranty, but we're not going to be in this business, so we're not going to spend money supporting it anymore." I get it, but as a smart home user, and I don't have any Wemo devices, I went and checked really fast because I wasn't sure. I'm not going to be directly affected, but this is not good, and it's going to turn some people off of smart home devices, honestly. Apple published a preprint for a paper submitted to the International Conference on Machine Learning titled Beyond Sensor Data, Foundation Models of Behavioral Data from Wearables Improve Health Predictions. It describes a wearable behavioral model, or WBM, that it trained on behavioral data. So step count, gait stability, mobility, VO2, stuff like that, compared to what is called a PPG model, which is based on like direct data like heart rate or ECG. The behavioral WBM outperformed the PPG model in 28 of 57 health prediction tasks. The WBM was better in all but one of the dynamic tests. These are things like detecting pregnancy, sleep quality, respiratory infection. The one dynamic test it was not as good at was diabetes. PPG was better at that one. So the headline isn't WBM means you don't need heart rate sensors. It's combining these models gave the most accurate results. So being able to pull in this behavioral data really does improve their ability to have some predictive health information for you.
I love this. And generally, I totally jive with this because I'm a big health nut, and I also I presume, a lot of devices that probably use a PPG model. But as we're all adopting them as a society, you can kind of see that this, again, more anecdotal than anything else, but the small kind of like, oh, this doesn't quite make sense. Or like, you know, people are all different, and heart rate is kind of a very person independent thing. So as you said, it's really just nice that we can have like this kind of not necessarily redundant, but complementary information to make all these things better. I'm so into it.
Yeah. Make it more specific to you.
All right. Well, Intel will spin out its RealSense robotics and biometrics business, launching it with a $50 million round of funding. Intel's vice president and general manager for incubation and disruptive innovation will become RealSense's CEO.
Yeah, it's not probably going to change much for you, except maybe you'll see some more RealSense technology getting into stuff. Samsung's COO, Won-Jun Choi, not to be confused with the pitcher for the Doosan Bears, told CNN that Samsung is exploring more wearable devices. He said, quote, "We believe it should be wearable, something that you shouldn't carry, that you don't need to carry. So it could be something that you wear. Glasses, earrings, watches, rings, and sometimes maybe a necklace." Samsung has watches and a smart ring already and is working on glasses, including a product in partnership with Google.
I love this, and it makes a lot of sense. I think like things like, you know, big HDR or VR headsets are wonderful, the Vision Pro, but I think like we're moving into that kind of section of technology where away from like the cool conceptual, but maybe practically, you know, infeasible devices to, hey, small stuff that I don't even have to think about that's on my body most of the day, which makes so much sense.
I don't know what a necklace would do for me necessarily, but I'm curious to find out what Samsung comes up with, right?
Yeah, the only thing I think it was like maybe for older folks, almost like what is that old commercial with the life alert where you hit the thing?
I've fallen and I can't get up.
I can't get up, but better with maybe like calling emergency, like that kind of thing. But like
they don't have to say anything, you know. But your watch can do that. So, but maybe they don't want to wear a watch all the time. Maybe the necklace is lower. Yeah. No, there's definitely some space there for stuff. I'm interested.
Yeah. Let us know. HMD Global, which has the license to make phones and tablets under the Nokia name, announced it will scale back its U.S. operations. The Verge reports that it appears to have stopped selling phones in the U.S. under the HMD and Nokia names. HMD says it will continue to support customers of its phones through its global support team.
Yeah. HMD did not say it was because of tariffs, but it's because of tariffs. Russian pro basketball player Daniil Kasatkin was arrested at de Gaulle Airport in Paris on charges of being a member of a ransomware gang. He's being held in extradition custody on the request of the U.S. Kasatkin played college ball at Penn State. Plays for MBA Moscow now in pro ball. Kasatkin denies the allegations, and his lawyer says he bought a used computer and added, he's useless with computers and can't even install an application.
Okay.
Which I would maybe be insulted if I was Kasatkin, except that if that gets you out of this somehow, then sure, go ahead, insult me.
Yeah, sure. No, what is that? What's the computer? What is this thing? Okay. Okay. Comcast announced that new customers can sign up for a service that does not include usage caps. There are 4 unlimited plans with speeds from 300 megabits per second to 2 gigabits per second. The unlimited plans are for those who use Comcast's Wi-Fi gateway, so you can't bring your own modem. Comcast also told reporters that it will offer the plans to existing customers as well.
You should read this Stephen Levy report in the Wired magazine, talking about the clause in the agreement between Microsoft and OpenAI on superintelligence. The clause says that if OpenAI achieves artificial general intelligence, Microsoft would not have access to those models, and the terms of their contract would become void. OpenAI defines AGI in its charter as a highly autonomous system that outperforms humans at most economically valuable work. The agreement also says Microsoft won't try to develop its own AGI during the terms of this agreement, which was probably fine back in 2019 when it was signed, and AGI seemed a long way off. But now that OpenAI wants to renegotiate the deal and its CEO is out there saying, I don't know, we might get AGI this year, Microsoft wants to change the terms of that deal. So it's a good read. I'm just pointing people to it if you want to understand that relationship a little better.
All right. Well, eSIM vendor Airlo just completed a round of funding that values it at $1 billion, making it a unicorn. So unicorns are not as rare as they used to be, but Airlo is an interesting one because it resells wireless data services to travelers. Airlo was founded in Singapore. Its founder now lives in Dubai, and it has its headquarters in the U.S. state of Delaware.
I used Airlo when I went to Japan.
Oh, really?
It was great. Yeah. It was super easy. You just on the app, you buy your eSIM. It installs it for you. It tells you how many gigabytes you have left at any given time. You can add credits super easy. Like, I'm not surprised that it's getting valued as high as it is because it was a pretty good service when I used it.
I love that too now, and I think especially as someone who's been traveling internationally for a while, and the old style of like renting a whole little like portable Wi-Fi or just having SIMs, I feel like it crept up on me a little bit. Like, oh yeah, eSIMs are basically I'd say not standard, but increasingly available to people. And this is such an amazing thing. When I saw it, I was like, oh, that's not the sexiest unicorn I've ever seen, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's a very practical unicorn. Folks, what do you want to hear us talk about on the show? One way to let us know is our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on them over there at reddit.com/r/Daily Tech News Show.
As the main character of your life, you know how important it is to make the right choices for you and how sweet it is to feel good about your decisions. With the State Farm Personal Price Plan, you have options to help create an affordable price for you so you can continue living your best life. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can choose to bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
We end every episode of DTNS with some shared wisdom. Today, Derek is helping us understand.
Yeah, he has some thoughts in response to our discussion earlier in the week with Andy Beach about the WPP ad agency and its problems with AI. Derek writes, as one living in the ad world, it's been hard to escape the bigger news that rocked the industry in the past few months. WPP lost some of its largest clients to a competing agency, including Coca-Cola, Mars, and Paramount. Heard of them? He didn't write heard of them. I had that. It's gotten so bad, WPP is suing this other agency. Current economic and political instability also leading to more conservative and lower forecasts for ad agencies in the coming years. That's not to say AI is not shaking up the advertising industry. It has already started to disrupt the industry across the board with advertisers, agencies, and media companies, but everyone's still figuring it out. If anything, advertisers have been looking to lean on agencies for guidance and education on how to navigate a potentially changing landscape. How does paid search work in a world where people are shifting over to AI-generated results, etc.? AI will definitely reshape the ad industry and force agencies to adapt, but the ad agency isn't going away quite yet, nor is it the central cause of WPP's current woes. Thank you, Derek. Appreciate that information, that insight.
All right. Well, what are you thinking about? Do you have some insight into a story? Please share it with us. Feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
Thanks to Derek for contributing to today's show. Thank you for being along for Daily Tech News Show. You can keep us in business by becoming a patron. If you're not already, please do. Patreon.com/DTNS. This week's episodes of Daily Tech News Show Briefing were created by the following people. Host, producer, and writer Tom Merritt. Host and writer Jason Howell. Co-host Rob Dunwood. Co-host Jen Cutter. Co-host Wentui Dao. Producer Anthony Lemos. Producer Roger Chang. Editor Hammond Chamberlain. Editor Victor Bognot. Science correspondent Dr. Nikki Ackermans. Social media producer and moderator Zoe Detterding. Our mods, Beatmaster W. Scott is one. BioCow. Captain Kipper. Steve Guadarrama. Paul Reese. Matthew J. Stevens, a.k.a. Gadget Virtuoso. And J.D. Galloway. Mod and video hosting by Dan Christensen. Music provided by Martin Bell and Dan Luters. Art by Len Peralta. Acast Ed support from Tatiana Matias. Patreon support from Bobby Wagner. Our guest this week was Andy Beach. And thanks to all the patrons who make the show possible.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
As the main character of your life, you know how important it is to make the right choices for you and how sweet it is to feel good about your decisions. With the State Farm Personal Price Plan, you have options to help create an affordable price for you so you can continue living your best life. Talk to a State Farm agent today to learn how you can choose to bundle and save with the Personal Price Plan. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices are based on rating plans that vary by state. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability, amount of discounts and savings, and eligibility vary by state.
Hey guys, it's Hannah from Giggly Squad. You know I love beauty, and that's why I go to Sephora. It's not just shopping, it's like a glam experience. The beauty advisors actually get beauty, unlike those big box stores, and they give me all the advice I need. And I love going with the products you can only find at Sephora, like my new favorite Kayali fragrance, my perfect shade of House Labs foundation, and finally restocked my Laneige lip mask. All with the help of real experts. Oh, and if you haven't tried Days shampoo, go try it. It's a game changer. Sephora isn't just a store, it's the beauty destination. Go. You'll thank me later.